Heads up, there will be spoilers for the most recent episode of X-Men 97. You have been warned.
On July 15th, I put out a video on this channel called Why I Let X-Men 97 Get Away With This. That was the Wolverine episode, okay? The adamantium, the bone claws, and people had problems with it, real ones. And I stood there and said, I was fine with it, because a show that takes a swing that big is a show that thinks you can keep up with it. That's the trade, all right? You risk it. I extend the credit. I watched the finale twice this morning, and I want to be careful because the cheap version of this is me telling you I was wrong in July. I wasn't wrong in July, okay? I ran the same test I always run. The show's the one that changed. What's up, my know-it-alls? All right, one thing before I get into it, because this is really a big week around here. Saturday, I'm doing the full autopsy on season 2, all 9 episodes, receipts on the table, and ultimately next Wednesday, something starts on this channel that I think a lot of you have been waiting for. So, and I'll get to that both those things rather at the end. So, season 2, episode 9, Survival of the Fittest. And I have to be honest with you, I have to be honest with you about how this went because I don't think I hit it well on my face. I was excited, genuinely. All right, I got up early for this, the way I get up for it every single one of these, and by the 90 seconds in, something really started sitting wrong with me, and I couldn't name it. Not the plot. The plot's fine, okay? You can follow it, okay? Not the animation, and I want that on the record early because I'm going to be hard on this thing today. The animation is gorgeous, okay? Some of the best looking work this show has ever done. But something was off, and by the end, I was really annoyed, and I don't love being annoyed on camera because annoyed guys on the internet are really a dime a dozen, and they're usually annoyed because a show didn't go the way they wanted it to. So I did the thing I do. I went away, and I sat with it. I watched it again, and I asked myself the only question that actually matters here. Am I mad about what happened, or am I mad about how it was built? It's how it was built, of course, and the second watch is where I got it. This finale was made for somebody who wasn't going to look very closely, okay? It tells you its payoff before it earns it. It cuts around the moments that would have been expensive to draw, and it hands you a spectacle in the spot where a consequence is supposed to sit. I felt talked down to, all right? Which is a strange thing to feel about a show I'd been defending 4 weeks ago, and it took me a while to be willing to say it out loud. Let me show you what I mean, and let's start where I think most of you already are, even if you haven't put words onto it yet. Rogue Beast and Nightcrawler get down to Apocalypse's ship. Rogue goes into the shrine, she faces Essen, she comes back, out in all gold and whatnot, and then she leaves. And Kurt watches her go, and he says out loud, wondering,
"No one enters that shrine without paying a price."
And I went, uh-oh. Because I knew. Not suspected, knew. The whole back half of this episode from one line, from a guy it hasn't even happened to yet. And here's where I had to check myself because I guessed the ending is the weakest complaint in criticism, okay? I guess endings all the time. Sometimes you're just familiar with the shape of things and you get there early and that's not the movie's fault. But that's not what this was, okay? And here's how I know the difference. When I guess an ending, I can't point at the moment. I just gradually feel it coming. This one has an address, okay? There's a specific line at a specific spot in the runtime, and everything before it is story, and everything after it is receipts getting printed, okay? And that's not a thing I figured out. That's a thing I was told. And then 20 minutes later, we get the line. Kurt makes his case to Essen. He lays out what his sacrifice is going to produce, that his memory becomes a seed that people grow something out of. And Essen asks him essentially,
"How can you be so certain your end will bring forth all this life?"
And Kurt says,
"Because I have faith."
I watched it twice, okay, with subtitles on to be sure I had it right. That's the line. And it lands like a thud. Not because it's badly written, okay? It isn't. It's because you can hear what it was built to do. You can hear the whole production leaning on it. This is the moment the show turns and goes, see? That Nightcrawler faith you've been watching all season, here it is. This is what it was for. And I didn't feel anything. Let me steel man the other side, because there's a good argument against me. Somebody's going to make it in my comments in about 4 hours, and they should. Okay, the argument is that Kurt's faith was set up properly, and it was 6 weeks ago, and he stood in front of the acolytes and defended Graydon Creed, and he didn't change Creed's mind, but he changed the judges, and Colossus walked away from Magneto's people because of it. Nobody announced that. You watched it happen. You understood it later. That's the real thing, and this show did it. So why doesn't that cover the sacrifice? Because that's a setup already paid off. And it paid off somewhere else. It paid off in the post-credits, okay, where Graydon Creed is the president of the United States on an anti-mutant platform. Kurt's faith saved that man's life, and now that man runs the country. That's a payoff with teeth in it, and the show built it right. It's just not the same setup as the death, all right? One of them you watched, the other one you were handed a program for. And the finale wants you to accept the second one on the credit of the first. Now, I cover every episode of the show the day it airs. If you want to be in the room for that rest of this, subscribe. All right. This next part's the part I actually do for a living, so give me a minute with it. Cable puts his gun on Gambit. This is the biggest thing that happens in the episode. A son executing a man in front of the man who raised his father's whole worldview. Here's how it's shot. Wide. All three of them in frame. Cut in tight on Cable, and the gun comes up into frame and he fires. Cut way out, establishing distance, and Gambit's body is falling. 3 shots, and not one of them is the 2-shot. Nobody ever has to board these 2 men in the frame together while it happens. And before somebody tells me that's restraint or that it's a kid's show, okay, let's be serious. The series has shown you blood. It's shown you evisceration. It showed you Magneto vaporized, okay? Whatever is going on in that sequence, it isn't about protecting anybody's sensibilities, okay? The camera goes exactly where the drawing is cheapest. And then there's the ship. And this one's the one I keep coming back to. They break a hole in the top of Apocalypse's ship to get in. Rogue drops down, and Kurt and Beast are standing there, and Kurt teleports the 2 of them, and now we're in the throne room, okay? This is an enormous vessel, and we get nothing in between, which, fine. Teleporting is what he does, except think about what a walk through that ship would have been. 2 old friends, one of them about to make the biggest decision of his life, moving through the birthplace of the thing that's been hurting them all season. Nobody says anything? Nobody sees anything? Nobody works anything out? The episode skipped the walk. And that's the space where you build the thing you're about to spend. That's really what it's for. And because it isn't there, 20 minutes later, a man has to stand at the bottom of that same ship and announce the ending out loud, because there's no version of the scene where you could have worked it out on your own. I want to be precise about what I'm accusing the show of, because I'm not accusing anybody of being bad at their job. The animation on this is beautiful, and I mean that, and I'm going to say it again at the end. The surface of this episode is high quality work. It's the connective tissue that's gone. Those aren't the same department, and they're certainly not the same decision, and I've sat in both those rooms. All right. And this is the part where I have to really take my own medicine, because I went back through the comments on the July video this morning, and somebody had already handed me this, and I didn't take it seriously then enough. Skywalker 3248, July 16th, under the video where I said I was fine with the Wolverine episode, and he wrote me a small book, and I'd encourage you to go find it, but here's the end of it. Like too much in the show, there are often no consequences. Things just get dropped and forgotten as soon as it's inconvenient, with far too much done just to key jangle iconic comic moments, just to have them with no intention of following up on them or having them have lasting consequences. Key jangle, okay? That's his word, not mine, and it's better than anything that I came up with this morning. And at the time I read that, and I thought, sure, but that's the cost of the swing, and I'm buying the swing. 4 weeks later, I'm watching a finale that key jangles a horseman, key jangles a celestial, key jangles a sentinel, and drops all three the second they've been looked at. He wasn't complaining about one episode. He was describing a habit, and I called the habit risk. So that one's mine, okay? Now, I have a lot more on the specific storyline he's talking about, the actual comic run for the Adamantium, which is genuinely wild and which almost nobody has read, and I go a good bit deeper on it in this week's sidebar for members. If that's your thing, I hope you join me over there. Okay, so here's the pattern. And once I saw it in the small stuff, I couldn't stop seeing the big stuff. 6 weeks ago, this show dug up Gambit's corpse and made him Horseman Death. Okay, black skin, white hair, the cards turning into tarot. That's a real thing out of the books. That's Blood of Apocalypse, X-Men Volume 2, 185. Okay, cover date June 2006. Okay, Peter Milligan writing, Salvador LaRocca on art. It's one of the great Rogue and Gambit scenes. She's standing in front of him, telling him there's got to be some part of him left that loves her. 2 weeks ago, the show said, actually, he isn't Death. He's a vessel. Apocalypse is riding around inside him. And this week, Cable shoots the vessel and Apocalypse just steps on out of him. And now we're looking at whatever that thing is. Okay? It's 3 different ideas in 4 episodes, and the villain of this finale isn't a horseman at all. There's a track on the soundtrack album that dropped this morning called The Horsemen of Apocalypse. And the horsemen aren't what any of this turned out to be about. And the thing we got instead looks amalgamated. It looks thrown together. It's like Gambit's silhouette with Apocalypse's parts hung on it, and it's on screen about 3 minutes before Rogue takes her glove off and it's finished. But I think the cleanest version of this in the whole episode is the one nobody's talking about. And it made me really sit up in my chair. X-Corp's headquarters is built in the ruins of Genosha. Okay, on purpose. Charles put it there and said so out loud as a memorial to Magneto and to every mutant who died the day the Sentinels came. And in this episode, the United States government attacks it with Sentinels. Okay, human piloted, sure, mechs, fine, but the silhouette coming over that horizon at that location is a Sentinel. And nobody says a word about it? I went back through a second time, specifically listening for it because I assumed I'd missed a line. They call out the Sentinel mechs are inbound as a tactical fact, as informations. Storm gets a moment about being careful with the pilots. That's the whole acknowledgement. That's the emotional center of that entire battle, sitting right there on the ground, free. Okay, in better hands, somebody stops for 1 second and says, do you understand where you're standing? Instead, those things are in the episode because an army was needed and Sentinels look good. It's used as function, not in service to anything. So let me get to the part that's actually my whole deal, which is what a finale is supposed to do for a living. I've got 2 debts, okay, that a finale has. It owes the season behind it, and it owes the season in front of it. Behind it, I've just spent 12 minutes on. In front of it is the thing I genuinely wasn't prepared for. There's no cliffhanger. And I want to be clear that I'd made peace with a lot going in. I'd watched the season. I knew there was no universe where all this gets resolved cleanly in 20 odd minutes. And I was fine with that because I assumed they were going to do what season 1 did. Season 1 ended in a way that carried the first 3 or 4 episodes of season 2 on its back. Okay. That ending was an engine. It had a job after the credits rolled. This one hands almost nothing forward. And the thing it does hand forward is a character introduced in a post-credits sting, and that's a very different instrument. A sting is a promise, but a cliffhanger, that's a debt. Okay? Those feel similar for about 8 seconds, and then only one of them is still working on you in October. And I'll say the quiet part, which is that a lot of you had Val Cooper called a long time ago, myself included, okay? Of the very things planted in the show itself, that's one of the big ones. So I'm not going to stand here and pretend that the room, any of us, got surprised, okay? Now, I want to put one thing up, and this isn't me deciding what the show is going for. This is the show saying it. Back in May of 24, while this season was still in animatics, Jake Castorona, who's a supervising producer on this show, sat down with CBR to talk about season 2, and he said, quote, "We wouldn't plant stuff if it wasn't going to go in." And he said, "Everything is meticulously done for a reason." And I believe he meant it. I think you can see where they meant it. Okay, the Creed thread is meant. The Val Cooper thread is meant. But that's the standard. Okay, that's their word for what they're doing. And it's the same standard I gave them credit for in July. Plant it and let it go. All right, the finale plants things by saying them out loud and then goes on in the same scene, sometimes in the same sentence. So there you go. Now you know. And if knowing's half the battle, you have to wait to make a know-it-all yourself. What is the know-it-all index for X-Men 97 Season 2, Episode 9, Survival of the Fittest? So I moved my own number while I was working on this, and I'll tell you both halves because I think the movement is really that's the real part for me. Coming off the second, which I had a 5, and is a 5 is average. Okay, 5 is mediocre, and I really hated writing that down about this show. Then I sat with it, and I came up to, I think I moved up to about a 6, and the entire reason is what's on the screen. This thing is beautiful, okay? The fight is legible. The celestial material looks like nothing else on television. Rogue coming down out of the sky in gold, that's honestly a great image, and none of that is cheap, and none of it is an accident. What I can't get past is what it's in service of. I never once felt a stake in this episode. And I'm a guy who loves the rule of cool. I've defended the rule of cool on this channel, but cool that isn't attached to anything, that's just noise. Noise with a good render on it. And all that gets is a 6 out of 10. In July, I let this show get away with things because it was swinging at me. This week, it wasn't swinging. It was hoping I wouldn't look too deep. All right, your turn, and I want the real answer, not the polite one. Tell me where you were when you knew Kurt was going to be the one. Was it the line at the shrine like with me, or did you get there earlier? Okay, or did it land clean for you? Because if it landed clean, I want to hear why. And I'm not setting a trap, I promise. I'd honestly rather be talked out of this one. And Corner GFX back in July left a comment under that Wolverine video. He said he watched it and told himself, trust the process. And he loved it. That's the deal we all made in July. I still think it was the right call to make. Listen, X-Men 97's done. Wednesdays aren't. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on Strange New World Season 4, Episode 4, the day it drops. Going to talk about all that. And Saturday, I want you there for this one. We're doing a special edition of the files on the whole Season 2. Okay, all 9 episodes, start to finish, and I'm putting a final verdict on it. Okay, I'll have the season's receipts out on the table the way I do in every files. Okay, dates, issues, what got said and by who, and I'd rather go through all of that with you than at you. So come argue with me on Saturday. And if you're an X-Men fan specifically, be back next Wednesday because I'm starting the original 92 series from episode 1. Now, it's not a nostalgia lap. It's really not a one-off. Okay, there's a reason I'm doing it, and there's a reason I'm doing it now. And I'll lay all of that out on Saturday. If you've been watching 97 and you've never actually sat down with the thing it's continuing, next Wednesday's the one. All right, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again on Saturday. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode more than I did. All right, guys, I'll talk to you again soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all. Bye, guys.